Hey everyone, this is Austin Scher here with We Write About Music, and today I am thrilled to be back on again with Josh Herren, who is better known as Galaxy Shores. He's got a brand new record out. It is called Plastique River, and I am super excited to talk to him all about it. Josh, always a pleasure. How have you been? What's going on?
The pleasure is all mine. I have been really good. It feels really good to have this done, to have this
Dude,
album
I
done.
the stress of putting out an album, especially one of this grand allure, is the weight off your shoulders?
Yeah, I honestly, so it had kind of been like we interviewed for the EP. It was really cool. That was like my first ever interview I've ever done. Like I
Sure.
was so like honored to do that. And like by the time that album had like come out, I had sort of started to record the first bits and pieces of Plastic River.
Yeah.
And I actually knew because Plastic River I was in school for acting in college, and like
Okay.
Plastic River was a term I learned in one of my movement classes.
Okay.
So I already knew like when I want this album to be called Plastic River and I want this thing, but I just knew I was nowhere near the level of technicality that I needed to be able to do it. And so by the time the EP came out, I had already started to record the first little inklings, and it was literally the next 2 years of just like slowly experimenting and finding my sound. And I took drum lessons and production lessons because I really wanted to dive in a lot more and hone the craft before I like
Sure.
dropped anything else. But yeah, I basically worked off and on, doing part time, and then the last like I took 4 weeks and I like took time off work and I worked like probably 40, 50 hours a week just on the album, just like recording, mixing, mastering, trying to finish everything.
Jeez.
And yeah, I mean, I sunk into the void, but it feels really good. It feels really good to have it done. I'm really proud of it. So
I mean, obviously the work speaks for itself, and I'm excited for everyone to listen. I think the hardest part when it comes to making a record like this is like the density, the layers. There's literally so much happening at once. I can't imagine that it's like, yep, I just picked up my guitar, clicked record, and I was done in an hour. Like this is such a piece of work that I think it just requires listening to it over and over and over again and making changes. And then there's a baseline level of perfectionism that it's like, no, 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 this needs to be like this. How do you not second guess yourself into like being like, yeah, I think it's done now?
I second guess myself a lot.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I
40 to
mean,
50
yeah,
hours a week, that's a full-time job making this thing.
I know. Yeah, there's a certain point where it's like something has to be done. Like it has to be done. Like
Yeah.
I have to just like get to a point where I try to basically build before I add lyrics, I build the whole instrumental. So like I try
Oh,
to do
okay.
that so that I don't have to think about the like I build the instrumental and I even try to mix it a little bit so that I can hear like the essence of it and how it sounds
Right.
before I go in and add like vocals. That's just like one thing that helps me so that I'm not overthinking a part while I'm like recording lyrics. Like at that point, I try to build it in phases. But I don't know. There's a lot of second guessing that goes on, and I think it's like at some point, like what was the saying? I heard somebody told me once, like great works are never completed, only abandoned.
Oh,
Like
so
I,
true. So true.
like
It's
I had to
so
just,
true.
yeah, I don't know. Like when I'm getting to the end, especially when I get to the end towards like mixing and mastering, I get to a point where I like listen to it and I'm like, okay, let me try to fix what I'm hearing, and if I can't fix it, that means it's done. Like I'll hear a sound and
That's
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like where I'm like, okay, like can I tweak this synth a little bit? And I try to tweak it and I go, no, that made it worse. Okay, that means it's got to be done. I don't know. It's different for every song. Like
That's
some
no, that's
songs,
solid.
yeah, I don't know. Some songs like Liminal Space, I recorded almost the entirety of that song in like one session. I just really liked all the parts. And
Hmm.
like Shop Nostalgia was the same thing. I kind of like it was one of the last songs I'd started recording for. But once I sort of found the groove, I recorded almost every piece of the instrumental in one night. And it just becomes the mixing is what takes the longest, I
Yeah.
feel.
Dude, that's so wild though, because it's like, okay, for me, as someone who listens to music on the daily, all day, every day, it's like so many records come out and they're instantly accessible. Like, and I'm not talking about like records in this specific genre, but like you listen to it once, you feel like you got the gist of it. The thing that
Hmm.
I like about this is that the first time through, it kind of it kind of puzzles your mind in a way because there's literally so much going on. It's hard to grasp and absorb every little facet of it, which means it has staying power for the future. And like you can feel the work that you put into it. It's not one of those things that you listen through once and you're like, yeah, I got it. All right, bye. Like this person spent, how long on this record and then you're kind of done with it. It's one that demands repeated listens.
I appreciate that. That's honestly the goal. That is the goal.
It has to be the goal.
Because I fell in love with music like that, that I can go back through,
Yeah,
hear a song. I mean, my favorite thing is like hearing a song in my car, noticing something that I don't notice until, and then I notice something else and I put my headphones on. I'm like, oh, whoa, I really noticed how the
right.
texture of that synth. So like I wanted to make, it's kind of
Exactly.
fun. Like my mom one time was like, you know, Josh, I was doing some cleaning around the house and I had your song going on speakers. And for the first time, I heard a little sound that I hadn't heard before. And I was like, you know what?
Mom, yes, you
Yes,
get
I was
it.
like, come on, you're getting it, dude. I
That's
love it,
crazy.
and like that's I love music like that so much that I can go back to over and over again because I know I'll hear something new that I can actually try to focus on
Yeah,
something new. Where like if you want to listen to the lyrics that I'm saying, you can, but if you want to tune them out and go like, oh, what's that guitar doing? Or like, what's that synth doing? Like you have the option to do that. I wanted to do that, so it's almost like a little playground.
totally. I mean, listen, you're definitely one of those artists that makes the music that you want to hear rather than to conforming to society or I need to get on the radio with a 3 minute, sub 3 minute pop hit. Like you found a void in the space that you're like, this is what it needs, and it fully lives up to that. So okay, I have just like a series of questions here.
Please, please.
There are two songs on this record that really stood out to me. I mean, they all stood out, but it was Pillars of Creation and Astorian. They're two of the longest songs on this record. First thing I noticed on my first run through, like uninterrupted, was any of these songs could fully go off and to become like an 8 to 10 minute tangent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why did you pick these two songs to be the longest running tracks? If there's an
Um,
answer.
yeah. I think Pillars of Creation, I just kind of kept going when I was recording. Like it wasn't no
Okay.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was it was really late. I was actually trying to figure out a progression for another song. Like, and I don't even remember what that other song was, but like I just remember finding the chords for what became the intro to Pillars.
Mhm.
And it was like I did that intro, I just had recorded it out, did the guitar solo, and like I had the idea for like what the drum hits were gonna be. And when that section ended, I was like, okay, where could it go? And I did the next section. And then when that section ended, I was like, okay, well, where else could it go? And I just did the next one. And I think it just kind of became this. And then once I realized like it was going to be about like my own personal faith journey and like something super personal to me,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what? This might as well just be like a space odyssey, you know? Like I didn't, I was just like,
Fully.
I don't care about time limit. At this point, I've already gone 4 sections deep. I'm already at 6 minutes. What's another minute? You know,
That
what's
is
another
true.
minute? And I think Astorian was kind of the same way because Astorian was the street that I grew up on as a kid,
Okay.
Astorian Drive. And so that was a song that was as much for my family as it was for me, you know? And like the little audio snippets at the end were like old family home movies of my siblings and I with my parents. And so that was just sort of an homage to like growing up. And Astorian very much was like designed as wrapping up the whole album. So like it
Okay.
was, I knew that was going to be the last track. I knew that's like the closer. If you like back and you listen through, it talks about it talks about growing up, which is sort of addressed earlier. It talks about, you know, is there a heavenly plan for me? That's addressed earlier. Being the man that, you know, the woman of my dreams deserves, that's addressed earlier. It kind of just wraps up, I think, the themes of the album. And so
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? Like this one's gonna rip too. Like I wasn't. That was one where I don't know. Like I wasn't
Well,
like,
they all do, but I
well,
I get
oh, but
wanting to
like
go out with a bang on the closer.
yes,
Like I
yes.
get that.
It was much more, it's much more a movie scene than it is a song, you know? Like I wanted it to sort
Sure.
of be this end of the thing, wrap up. It's a journey. It kind of goes, it starts more ominous. I'm really all these changes
Yeah.
are happening in my life, and then it ends on this sort of positive, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. You're gonna be okay, kind of a thing. So I think those two, like Pillars, I didn't necessarily plan on it being that long. I just kept recording and finding new ideas. And
Yeah.
then I got to a point where you hear that like it's not drum and bass, but like the fast drums and then everything cuts out when it gets to the synth.
Yeah.
I like had like two-thirds of the song done and I was away, I was working and I was just listening to like demos in my headphones. And I remember I got to a point and I was like, there was happened to be a piano in this room and I like touched on it and I like played this chord and I was like, wait, and I like went back and listened and I was like, ooh, and I was like, you know what? I haven't even another section to get to. So I went back
I
home
mean,
and
yeah.
recorded another section. So that one wasn't necessarily intentional, but once I realized what the scope of the song was for my own personal life, I was like, you know what? This thing has to be just as long as possible.
No, I mean, I get that. The thing is, it's like I said, any of these songs could have fully gone off and become like, 8-minute thrillers or whatever. But I like that you didn't overdo it in a way. Like, you know, n just realistically speaking, not everyone wants to listen to a record where they're all like 8 to 10 minute
Oh
tracks.
yeah, yeah.
Like sometimes you got to keep it short and sweet and to the point. I get that. Um, One thing that I really noticed about this record as opposed to your debut was okay, the debut is obviously rooted in psych rock, and so is this one. But you can really feel the evolution of everything. This record feels a lot more cinematic and suspenseful than the other one. I'm not sure if that was something you were shooting for, but like, I guess when you were creating the blueprints for this record, did you always want to make it in the same vein but different than the debut?
I feel like in my head, I was like, by the time I got done recording the EP, I had like all the gear that I had. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, I'm gonna keep everything that I have. I'm not gonna like just buy a bunch of new stuff. I'm just gonna use the tools that I've accrued. Like the EP was basically me learning how to make music in album,
Oh, yeah, that's reasonable.
like it was like I go back through, it's like looking at your baby pictures. It's like, yeah, I was cute, but I got fat rolls everywhere. It's like the EP is
Sure.
like it's really fun, but like it's over processed and the EQs and the compression, but it's just because I didn't know what anything did. So I'm learning how things,
Yeah,
and so this was, I felt like I was like, you know what, I want to try to find my sound more. I don't want to be like, I'm huge inspired by Tame Impala, but I don't want to be a Tame Impala knockoff. Like I
right.
all these bands that have influenced me, but where do I fit within the psych world? Where's my own specific thing? And it was kind of fun. I started to go to all these jazz shows with one of my roommates.
Nice.
And I was like, I got drum lessons from a jazz drummer, and I started to
Oh,
listen to like
dude.
this sort of this new. So it just kind of like it opened up my playing where I was like, wow, like I really like these kind of fun off kilter fills and like off kilter beats. And like I really like a lot of the drums from the EP, they were all analog by the time they made it to the EP, but I recorded probably three or four of the songs in MIDI and then just like played over my MIDI with real drums. So like a lot of the fills sounded really
Okay.
segmented. But like in this one, I was like, there was no rules. I was like, I can just make whatever drum beat I want to make. And so I would just
Yeah.
like and try to make it more technical. So I don't know if I had a specific sound in my head, but I just knew I wanted to take what I had done and like really push myself forward and try to figure out like what's my sound if there is one.
Dude. I love that. And see, that's the thing is like, and I kind of want to go back to what you said. Yeah, the Tame Impala influence is fully there. There's no denying that. But the thing is with psychedelic music is it's rooted in the experimental. If you're not trying new things within the genre, then you fall into like a lane that has already been discovered. This, yeah, it's psychedelic and it's experimental, but it's also very unique in you. Like you can feel the influences from the debut, but you can also feel the evolution, is what I'm trying to get at here. Obviously, the work was put into it to get to that point, but just know that it paid off. Like you didn't sit in this room, for weeks at a time for it not to pay off.
Dude, no, thank you. I definitely feel that. And that's probably been the compliment that I've gotten the most, that's like meant the most,
Yeah.
is like people have listened to it and it's like, whoa, Josh, like this sounds like you. Like this sounds like your
Yeah.
sound. Now when I go back, like by the time the EP was done, I was so sick of hearing it. I was so sick of listening.
Oh God, I
Like I was
cannot imagine.
I was just like
Yeah,
everything just became a wall of sound as I'm trying to master, just eyes glaze at the end. But like this one,
of
even though
course.
I put way more work into this one, like it was just like so difficult, especially toward the end. But like by the time it finished, I listened to it again and I was like, wow, I'm really proud of the way this turned out. Like it
Dude,
definitely
that's awesome.
it felt like something that was my own that I made, Like it
Yeah.
really felt like I pushed myself and in my own sound, I have no idea what the next album is going to sound like. Like I have little inklings of like voice memos and stuff on
Yeah.
the phone, but like I really felt like I made it's almost like when the EP goes to bed and has a really good dream, he dreams of being this album. You know what I mean? Like I don't know,
Sure.
it's a weird
No, I fully understand what you're trying to say there. That's really funny. Dude, I mean, listen, you should be proud of yourself. Again, a record of this magnitude takes serious work and focus. But at the same time, you don't want to rush the next one. Let this one breathe, get it out there, promote it, because you know how emotionally intensive it can be to do it again. And it just like you're starting from scratch, and that can be a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah,
So
you have to live life too. It's like I feel like
a
there has to be
hundred
like
percent.
I lived so much life in those 2 years that I was like
Yeah.
making this that it's like I want to give myself a chance to promote this because I'm really proud of it. I want to promote. I want people to hear
Yeah,
it.
of course.
But like definitely just to allow myself to live and experience the world, experience life, and like move on to new seasons of life because that's what informs the
Yeah.
music.
Another thing I really wanted to know was what do you think is your most important piece of gear that went into making this thing as you look around and take tabs?
The most important piece of gear, I think. Well, this is so okay. I'll go 2 lanes. The one lane of like analog, just like golden child. Like the Juno is so special to me.
Yeah.
It was the first analog synth I ever got. I knew I wanted to. I'd heard multiple records with it on there. Tame Impala being one of them, but like
Yeah.
I just knew like if you know who Jacob Mann is, like there's just so many people who I highly recommend looking him up. Very cool. He just
Okay.
does a lot of really experimental stuff with just the Juno.
Oh, nice. All right.
And so I was just like I was really fascinated by the knobs and the turning. So like this one I probably use the most on the
Okay.
album. Like there's obviously a lot from the Prophet. It's not in here right now, but I have like a Pro One that's like super analog that like literally like at one point I put it down wrong and it broke, so I had to get it fixed. Like it was just
Oh,
like
shit.
so it's so old.
Yeah.
Like we play with these live because they have presets, but the
Oh,
Pro One strictly studio, there's no presets. So like that's
nice.
really cool. But so as far as like music gear goes, I would say the Juno probably has the most like range on the album.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different pads that all are from that. But the single most important piece of gear I ever used while recording this was my laptop
Oh,
because
yeah.
I had my old laptop. And by the time the 3 singles came out, by the time I got done with each of those singles, I wasn't physically able to play the track while I was mastering it. Like I would play the track and I'd have to master in between buffers. Like I literally was having to like
Oh,
freeze the entire project, the CPU, because my laptop was like 6 years old.
oh,
And
yeah,
so it
yeah.
was like I was trying to play these like super dense tracks with like layers of
And it
vocals.
just was not
It
happening.
was not, it was sweating. So I turned it on.
Yeah.
Even sitting in the studio, I'm trying to listen to like just like quiet and I'm hearing like shh,
Ah,
the
shit.
fan is just
Yeah.
running. So before I did those 4 weeks, I got a new laptop.
Okay.
And for the first time, I was like, whoa, wait, I can actually like I was not even able to hear my own voice while I was recording vocals for the 3 singles. I had to just like have one ear off, hear how my voice sounded to my ear, and then just trust it was good, go back, listen to it, hear if it was good. But then I was able to actually like put my headphones on, hear my voice in the mic while I'm recording. So
Wow.
it's not like a piece of gear per se, but like
No,
getting a new
it fully
laptop
is a piece of gear. 100%.
with
Listen, if
music.
you, yeah, if your technology is not up to par, then it's like, I mean, it sounds like it could hurt you if you can't even hear yourself while you're singing. So, yeah, that's no, those are two great answers right there. A couple more for you.
Please.
Is there a possibility of playing these songs live, like with a band? I don't know how you do that, but like,
Yeah,
how would that look?
I honestly, there is a part of me, I don't want it to ever control the way that I make music when I'm like recording, but there is
Yeah,
always a part of me in the back of my head that's like, could it be played? So like I definitely want to,
yeah.
and I actually have it labeled. So like in all my Ableton projects, when I make a sound on the Juno or the Prophet that I save and like that I'm recording somewhere, I always label it in the project of like what preset it is.
Oh, smart.
That way, when we play live, our synth player can just click the presets and like we have a whole note in my phone. Originally, it was my brother, so like my brother and I would come in here and we would just sit there together, and I'd be like, okay, it's like during this part of the song, you're gonna click to this preset, and it just plays the same sound that you're hearing on the record. So like it might not sound exactly the same, obviously, like mixing all that stuff,
Yeah,
but I do try and think in my head, like, what could we be playing with the five of us? Like, what could we play live?
sure.
And like I have another one of the guys, Austin, does like guitar and synth. So I
Oh,
have
cool.
like a MIDI controller that I got like a super cheap like Juno emulator software plugin.
Yeah,
So if there's a certain section of a song that like I know the synth player is already playing a pad on the Prophet, then I'll just have a MIDI preset on the MIDI controller to do a lead off to the side. Like I do my best,
right.
so we don't have any tracks. Like we run zero tracks, zero backing
Nice.
tracks, just because I wanted to have that analog feel to it. Even if that means I have to cut, an arpeggiator out of a song, if I have to cut, one little
Yeah,
lead here and there, like I'm willing to do that just because we're all playing it live together, and I think it just adds to like the human feel of it.
100%. And listen, like people who are watching you play, they can tell when someone is, faking it, or they're just like, oh, I'll click this button to look like I'm busy. But like the impressive side of it is like, again, this is dense music. And to remember how to do everything and have people up there like playing in a symphony is such a beautiful thing.
No, thanks. And to be honest with you, we've just now started learning a lot of the song. Like we learned before the album even came out, we had learned the intro because I wanted to open our shows with that. But now that the album is out, we're just now like starting to learn some of the harder songs on there. So like I'll
That's
actually
okay.
I'll keep you updated on how it sounds to
I
play them
mean,
live.
yeah, man, please. Yeah. See, but that's another cool thing to post for like social media or something like that is like if you're in the room and you're trying to figure it out, like people love seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My last one for you here is it's basically like before people listen to this record, is there anything else important you think that they should know before they, hit the play button?
Um, I think it's not a, you know, concept album per se, but I would tell anybody who's going to listen to it all the way through. Give it a chance
Oh yeah.
to like have its day. I didn't want it to be too long. Like what you're saying, a lot of those songs that could go off on tangents probably will when we play live because it's more fun.
Right. It's
You
gonna be
know?
a 7 hour concert. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
King Giz,
awesome.
we're gonna do like three
Right.
hours, all good.
Yeah. No breaks, no
No
nothing.
breaks, no nothing, no.
Just
But I know I think let it have its day, let it play. But I think just if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But I am
yeah,
proud to present it as it is basically the diary journal entries from a season of life. And I hope whoever's out there listening, I hope that there's at least one verse, one chorus. I hope there's one melody you connect to because that's all that matters. It's like my
absolutely.
life is just there to inform the music, and the music is there to hopefully help people through a hard time or elevate a night drive or the beat,
Absolutely.
anything.
Dude, pure poetry right there. Josh, you are the man. Let me please plug your music for you before we wrap up here. So, if you didn't know or you didn't hear the first time around, I'm speaking with Josh Herren, but the artist name is Galaxy Shores. The record's name is Plastique River. And of course, we'll have the links in our articles that you can listen and share with all of your friends. Follow along, stay tuned for more. I have nothing but positives to say here. I'm so happy we got to talk again, and I'm so happy that this record is out in the world for people to enjoy.
Me too, man. I really
Truly,
appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's great to talk to you. I can't wait to
always.
randomly run into you at another concert one day. That'll be very fun. That'll be a great time. Remember the Magic City Hippies
Of
running
course.
it?
Okay, real quick before we wrap up, this is gonna sound so stupid. And like I don't think I've seen another person that looks like you because you do have a unique look. Were you at Pond at the Lodge Room?
No way.
Were you
Yes, I
there?
was.
Son
Yes.
of a bitch. I was like, I think I recognize this person from the back of their head, but I wasn't gonna like go up and tap you because
Of
I'm
course
just
you were
not
there.
I'm like not that person, but I was like, it's probably
But of
him. But
course
I'm
you were
like,
there. You got your ears to the streets. Like that's
well,
I
yeah,
know.
man. Of course.
Oh
I'll
my
never miss
gosh.
them.
That was
I
such a
knew
good
it.
that was such a good
Rats.
show. That was
It
such a
was a
good
good show.
Well, dude,
And
okay, listen.
yeah,
Let's grab drinks, bro. Please. Like we
let's
keep
do it. I'm
saying it.
around. I have no plans this summer.
Okay, dude. Yes, me neither. Okay, I don't have like any sort of official promo for it, but July 13th, we're playing a 1 day festival set in Pasadena.
Oh, nice. Where at?
It'll be in the parking lot. There's that big church, Lake Avenue Church.
Okay.
It's in a parking lot. It's in the parking lot of that. So like they're holding it as like a just a space so that that way they can have like secular bands or doing food trucks, merch table, like the whole thing. It's their first year doing it. So
That's
we're like one
cool.
of the inaugural acts. But yeah,
Hell
so
yeah.
July 13th, if you want to put a date in the old calendar.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. All right, dude. Thank you so much again for taking the time. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Let's chat soon.
Of course, dude. You too. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
listening. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye bye.
See you.